Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about how to build up this visual from scratch. Here I have a similar model similar to this one, and actually this visual is coming from the Microsoft website, which is the new card visual. It's called new, but has been updated since last year, and this visual is not quite new. It's actually coming out in 2023, but only until today we're going to have interest on that. So basically the visual that we're going to develop, if we drag this over here, is over here. We say this new, with this thunder icon, new card. You have your old card over here. So that's the visual that we're going to have built. So let's move those two here. So normally when you build any visual, you need to be aware of any filter context that has been imposed on this visual. So anything you put on this canvas will be becoming a filter context. So what I normally do is, because I'm only targeting to, for example, we have last year, this year, so I'm going to focus on only a particular year. So here I'm going to the canvas table. We'll make this as a visible slicer that we can choose from. And luckily you have this new button slicer. I love that. So that's what we're going to do. So let's fix the year to 2017 first. And then on this page, I'm also interested in another slicer. The slicer we're going to use here, we already have a calculation group, which will help us to define what to calculate. For example, I'm interested in the month to date figures, right? Or I'm just saying current. So let's stick to this one. Okay, once this has been done, now if I put any measure on this visual, for example, they have sales measure definitely, which is the total sales. If we go into the core measures and we drag the net sales over here, so that's 2 minute months to date for 2017. Okay, so with this 2 minute inside, what other information is available on this visual? We actually have a store count. We also have a store name, which is probably the top store name, and also we have same period last year measure for the last year sales, right? So let's just explore here what we have. For the store, actually we don't have the store count. You can see over here. So what I'm going to do is go in here, we're going to create a new measure. This new measure is going to return a numerical figure, so use the hash sign in front, store count. For the store count, we're going to just use row count or distinct. There's a distinct count. We're going to count everything that column name that in the orders table, and they have a store ID, right? So that's what you're going to count. So in the order ID, we're going to do a distinct count. So whenever you have an order placed in the order table, you will be taking into consideration about this store count. If we hit enter, and we drag this store count over here. So wait a second, store count, not order ID. We should count the store ID. Let's see what do we have. The store ID. So that's more like we have 56. So for the 2017, we choose a different year. You have different store count to contribute the sales, which is making sense. Okay. So now you have these two. Actually, there are two more. Let's just say the last year sales. We can replicate that, but unfortunately, we don't have that. We only have the current year sales. So what we do is we create a new measure. Let's just create over here new measure. This new measure gonna call the total sales net. Since it's the previous year, we say py and equal to. We're going to use the calculate because we want to change the filter context. So the net cell is the one that we're going to use as the base, but the filter going to be the same period last year. So we're going to use the time intelligence calculation equal to, I know the one that I define is previous period is py, so I use this. So with this py in mind, we can have a double check going to the data model. Going here, you have this calculation group checked, time intelligence, calculation item. So py is the name that I say whenever a measure been selected, it will use this to calculate the time intelligence. So that's why we have this py. So since py ready, if we drag the py over here, we have that py, but it's not in the way that one. That's fine. Let's just create all the measure first. So now the measure we need is the top sales store. It's a little bit difficult, but fortunately I have this written here. So the logic is we create a baseline. The baseline is gonna use the select column. While we select the column, we calculate the total sales, and then we filter that to remove the online store, because online store is not in our interest. We're only interested in the physical stores. And then based on this base, Based on this base, I'm gonna do a top n, which is the top one, sorted descending order by the total sales, which is here, and then we select the column. We only select the store name, hence we return a store name. So let's just rewrite this from beginning. So first, what we do is we're gonna build up a baseline for everything that we're gonna calculate later. So baseline, what we try to do is we're gonna select the columns. This column is going to be from the store table, and the first name I want is the store name. Store name is coming from the description of the store, and the second I need actually the total sales, right? For the total sales in this time, I need a measure to calculate that. I'm going to use this to calculate that sales, right? And then once we have done, we can just test it out. Return. Here we say base. See what we got. So you have two columns, store name and total sales, and with this, since I already talked about, we don't want the online store being one of the factor to consider. So we're gonna do here, we're gonna wrap it with filter function. With this filter function in place, we're gonna move the store name that we just renamed does not equal to the name, which is online store. Okay, once we move this, we have it indent correctly, we run that. So you can see online has been removed. Next, we're going to create another variable. This time the variable going to be the base sorted, sort of. Okay, right? So this base sorted, we're going to choose the top n to calculate just the first one from the base table and order by which is the store total sales. Here, total sales, and in the descending order. Once we have this done, we can return the base sorted, and if we run the query, so that's the one we want. But additional, I don't need this one, I just need these values, right? So over here, the return part, we can add something to select the columns. The table is from this base sorted. The only thing that we need is the store name, right? We finish that, we run this. So that's the store we're gonna return. The reason we return only one because we need a scalar value to display the store name. So that's why we go in here, we create a new measure. The new measure, we're gonna call it, let's go to the top. We're gonna call it, since it's a return a text, we use this special sign, say top store, right? We hit enter, and we drag this top store over this measure. So based on our sense, the full measure that we have created for this visual. So we have the total sales, we have the store count, we have the top store, we also have the last year sales for the same period. Okay, now we need to have sort of a primary measure and secondary measure. How do we have that? If we select this visual and then go into the format pen, now you can see there's several options. So for the call out values, if you say, you can try the value. If you disable that, you can see all the bold text has been gone, which means they're controlling the values for everything. But there's just a reference label. This is where you add your secondary measures. So what are we gonna do? Instead of having this over here, we're gonna remove the top store, remove the last year. We know that under the store, we have this top store, right? So under the store count, we have this top store. Now you can see that, right? And then under the total sales, we have this same period last year, and it's just in a different orders. So what we do is we open this build pen, we move this store count over the top. So that's where you have that. So our foundation has been done. Now it's just all about the cosmetic changes, right? So cosmetic changes, you can have several ways to tackle that. So first, normally I just tackle the shape including how the font looks like, also the format of that, and also the shape of the edge. So first, let's fix the edge. Everything gonna be done from the format pen. So the edge, you can just shop around to see, okay, if it's a layout, background, you turn on, turn off that, see what's the change. That's normally what I do. But here for this, there's two cards, right? So one card, two cards. We're going to the card, change the shape to round. So that's the round, right? And you can see there's a light gray border, but here it doesn't have that. So you can disable that. Now you can see the top, since it's white color, same as the background, it's been gone, but that's fine. We can enable this glow to have that boundary enabled because you have contract background. And here you can see the glow is a little bit green, because if we expand that, that's the green. So we change this to this part. So this two right now looks very similar if we pull them together. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do is look at the layout of that. The shape almost has been done. So next is, like say, you can see the measure names underneath the measure result. This one is actually not. This is the measure name, this is measure result, measure name, measure result. So it's kind of doing the reverse order. So let's fix the primary display section first. So normally the primary section is all changed from this called out values. If we go in here, we're going to, if you try it out, you can disable the label. So the measure name has been gone, enable that. Then you go underneath, you can check that there's a position called this label, how it's been positioned itself in this primary section. So right now it's above the value, hence the result. So we just need to change this to below, right? The second thing we notice that is the name is different, because this carried the natural original name of the measure. We need to change the label name, but right now it's grayed out because right now you're applying to serial, so we need to choose a particular store count, and then we're going to label. Now you can change this. I just say change this to stores, right? So down, that's the store. And for the second one, we're going to change that to total sales, right? Okay. And then next thing I notice is the size is different. I want the result to be bigger than the measure name. So what you can do is go into the value. You can increase this to, for example, 30. See how it goes. Looks like all right. So we change another one to 30. So then we're back to that. We change the label. The label, and we want to make it smaller. So we change that. So smaller looks like all right, and make it bold. So these two are quite similar right now. It's just the color of that. This is the dark blue. So we made this as a dark blue. See how it goes, very similar. Next is the bottom section for the secondary, which is the reference labels. So for the reference label, we're gonna choose this to all, so we're gonna apply change to overall. Right now it's below the call out, so it's fine. So that's one way. If you change it to right, it's like this way, so that's not what we want. So option, we leave it as it is. For the title, if you disable that, that's the title, right? For the title, what we want to do is make it, I think the size is fine. We just need to make it a light gray, right? And make it bold. Okay, no bold. And then we're going to the value. So the value, we want to increase the size. I just say increase that to 15. Okay, looks all right. And the color is actually white, right? We make it bold. And if you drag this around, you can see there I actually align the same line, rather than here is actually like a colon. So we need to find a section which is the layout. If we change this to a colon, you can see like this way, right? Okay, back to here. Now next thing that we notice is the background color of the second. If we disable that, enable that. So the background color we change it to a dark blue. So now these two are quite similar. I think even darker will be more suitable. Okay, so I have this ready. So next thing is the name of the secondary, which is the reference label. So for that, you need to do the same thing. So do one at a time. So store count, I'm gonna choose the total store. I'm gonna choose a customer name. The customer name gonna be the top store, right? And then we're going back to here. We change that to the total net sales. We choose that previous year. We choose custom. For the customer here, we're gonna choose say last year sales. Okay. So now these two are quite similar, except they have a title for that. They have subtitle, right? So title, subtitle is pretty straightforward. Just go over here. The title is the key performance indicators, right? And then we have the subtitle, which is enabled over here. The subtitle is how effectively the company is achieving our business objectives, right? And for this, we can make the title, I think, bold, bigger, and different color, just black. Let's make it bigger, okay? And for that bottom, the subtitle is a little bit gray, right? So we make it a dark gray and make it bigger. Okay, so that's how we achieve that. Okay, one last thing we need to adjust is the proportion. For example, you can see the primary is primary because they take more real estate. So there's a proportion that you need to adjust. Every time it's very hard for me to find that proportion. Let's just find it out. So I think for that we need to tell the system about how it's been laid out. So let's just go into the core out section, layout. Okay, we found out. So this layout is telling you for the core out value how it's being occupied in the space. If we increase that, you can see it, right? Let's just make this at the same fashion. I think 60 would be a good number. It's more, I think. Okay, so that's look like very close to what we got over here. So next thing we're gonna do is, you can see the border here. It's very narrow here, but here is a little bit wide. So this is more like to do with the padding. So another way to have things and find out, to just type here padding. So that's the padding. You can test it out, see the result. So this is overall, so we're gonna leave that as a 5. So there's more about the layout section, which is under here. So if we increase that, so that's not what we want. And for the card, the normal, we have this wide. Oh, looks like this is more about what we are gonna adjust. So go to custom size, gonna increase that to, let's just say 20, even further 25, 30. Okay, 30, I'm okay with that. And then I'm gonna have, like, say this is a little bit down, right? So we need to increase that to 15. Looks like more legit, and increase that more. I think 30, and it looks all right. We just need to make this 2 even bigger. So we close that. We go into the core out. The value will make it bigger. 30. Oh, sorry, that's the core out. So if we change over here, store count, change that to I think 50. See how it goes. I like this one. So for the second one, we'll change that to 50 as well. Okay. So that's how we mimic our look from the article here. They demonstrate the final output, but they didn't tell you how it's been, like, say, drafted. So today we explore the option to quickly mimic an exact look like this. But be remembered that those cosmetic change doesn't really take much effort. What will take you much time is about the mesh development, because here we got a quite a complex setup. You have a primary meshes, secondary meshes, right? So that's today's episode. Hope you enjoy it. See you guys in the next one.